Time now is 10:33 a.m. The date is the 4th of April 2026. Yep, yep. So I say good morning to myself. The date is 4th of April 2026. The time now is 10:04 a.m. This video going to be on three things. Let's start with the most important thing. Pre-consciousness and temporal processing as cognition for neurodivergence. So this video is on pre-consciousness, uh, temporal modeling, temporal processing, cognition for modeling uh, neurodivergence development, uh, neurodivergence, neurodivergence ability, neurodivergence. So this video again, I'm going to speak with formulating it. So I'm autistic, I'm tripolar, I'm not bipolar. I went to a point of my research about me, myself, and I want to find out what makes autism, what makes people autistic. I'm 24 right now, and if I find this out before I'm 25, but I have a good hypothesis and theory. Pre-consciousness is the birth phase of the cycle of the minds. So basically, you're pre-conscious when you are developing as a zygote. All zygotes are perfect until something happens. They diverge or neurodivergence. But what causes neurodivergence is uh, temporal processing and cognition via a cognition feedback loop. Uh, Hypothetically, I'm proposing that pre-consciousness is the main phase of the system when you're being booted into the world, but the temporal processing layer is active. Is getting booted as well. So you're born with your senses, but the temporal processing is the system that dictates what uh, allows someone like me to be autistic or not. You know, temporal processing refers to the idea that processing happens in temporal lobes. Like, it's all temporal. And this is a feedback loop into the cognition and the consciousness itself. So, uh, things that, I was born in my mom's womb, but I was born in time. So I was born in 8.5 months. 8.5 months. So I was born before there was time to give me birth. Because 9 months probably is too much anyway. But I was quite a big baby, and my temperament was very good. My alertness, my soundness was very good, and I could distinguish a lot of things in my life. I'm using this process for temporal processing to explain things that happen, like hearing an audio clip and be able to remember it for a short time. Uh, Temporal processing is basically temporal. Usually, so it's temporal. It's volatile. Information is volatile, but information being volatile or temporal means that information is the information is non-volatile, but you are processing it in temporal space. Like being far distance away from a radio signal, like a noise or Doppler effect, and if you are getting a signal from a noise and you're not conscious yet, basically, if you get information from a noise and you're not consciousness, you are in a kind of a consciousness that's not there yet. So you're not fully formed, but this develop your consciousness because consciousness likes to deal with stuff that it encounters. So if you're pre-conscious, what do you have? You're bound to cognition, and cognition can determine how your conscious operates. For example, if I'm hearing a car, I'm in a room, my mom's room, I'm hearing a car. I don't know. I do know. My mom's hearing a car. I'm hearing a car. I'm observing the frequencies of a car, but I'm not observing it to my consciousness. I'm using my consciousness basically alarm basically because if my mom goes, if my mom, a mother, a mother goes to near me with a womb, for a party, and the baby is, experiencing all this environmental noise. They are encountering information for like, people cheering, people dancing, but they are processing information without, like, say there's a party in Enugu, and I'm the dad of the dad in my life, and some woman from anywhere went to Enugu, and they have a party, and they have a dance there, and they have like a party. All the information is being processed, like all the sound information, just the sound only, to the temporal system. The temporal system is a feedback loop to the baby's cognition and consciousness and development of cognition. I'm going to focus on consciousness now. I'm trying to quote that the cognition feedback loop is the main interface for the system. The temporal processing, in this case, will be the cognition, how the baby handles cognition, or develops the consciousness, sense of awareness or consciousness via a cognitive feedback loop. The baby cannot interact with directly because experience the joy or the lack of joy in the party based on based on the feedback loop of the temporal lobe. Now, the idea is to have the embryonic space of a system determine, the space, like the embryo space and the time, as an axis. Because the time is frozen for me. In kind of, I own time because I was born in time. So I was my axis is time. I operate in time, but I operate in time. By operating in time, I mean, like, for anything they do, I wouldn't have dyspraxia unless someone takes my time and takes my time up. So if a woman goes to New, you have a party, all the information is being processed by the via the previous developer, and depending on whether the baby can interact with the information, whether the baby can interact with the information, they cannot, or project themselves, well in that kind of field of view from New to Enugu determines how the baby will develop neurodivergence or not, But it's not a disorder in kind of aspect that is not harming the baby, because the field fluctuates of noise, and that's what happened to me. So, that's not what my mom did. I'm not saying my mom's diabetes or mom. I'm saying that neurodivergent development is based on stochastic, randomly distributed information set that's coherent, that becomes coherent based on how frequent they are. Again, that's the stochastic distributed for stochastic or random distributed information becomes coherent. That become coherent and allows awareness to develop that way. Is neurodivergence autism, which include abilities like hindsight, seeing the future, tripolar, bipolar, bipolar having two sides to oneself, or tripolar having three sides to oneself. I'm claiming that the system is stochastic because you don't control what you have, but because you have to, you don't control the feedback you have, but you can observe to interact with the environment. You can observe, you get a slice of the environment, you get a slice of what your mother has, what's happening around you. You know what I'm saying? And that's what you share with your mother, or your dad. Depending on what happened between your mom and your dad. The temporal lobe is a cognition interface, not a consciousness interface. Because cognition is the ability to do something, but it's not a consciousness interface. But it's bound, like, you have two dimensions. Think of a slice of pie. A slice of pie, a slice of a sphere of pie. Take a cubit and slice it into 4 equal sectors. 3 equal sectors. You have three temporal interpretation of a system. Because the sector determines the sphere of all this information that can be observed and not observed and interacted with, if so be it, And that's what I believe I was doing in my mom's womb. So I'm trying to use knowledge and document it as a kind of neurodivergence and noticeability as a superpower. Because when information becomes coherent, you start understanding that information is there. You start becoming aware of that information. You start to classify that information, and that's what consciousness is. It's basically a temporal classifier. Basically, if information becomes coherent and you're not even born yet, that means you're able to classify information. based on because I can classify this based on I classify this in my mind, but but I have my own interpretation of it. So if you can start, I was pre-conscious as well. So but I'm saying information based on how the facial was done defined, how the facial was strictly defined. Like make your own interpretation of what it is. Like you see a car, you call it you see a bike, you see a car, you call it the word car word in Igbo. For example, via Venom, you call it something else in your language because cars are not just like one word. Mbua, I think it's called Mbua, MMUBU, car. I don't know how to say car in Igbo. Let me say car in Igbo, car in Igbo, car in Igbo. Ugbo, Ugbo, Ugbo Allah, my car. Ugbo Allah. Ugbo Allah is car. I got it from my head thanks to my trusted friend Kick Andy and Jeremy. I love my life, because I had I didn't know what the car was, I just had to pull it from the field I was in as a child, and that's what I just did now. So that shows it does work, and because I've thought about it simply, this can be formulated as a system of hindsight too. So hindsight means seeing the past and seeing the future, because the past every day is stochastic. Every day it has a random distribution, but you can't predict what people are doing exactly. You can predict what you're gonna do. Like I think about I'm going to have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I'm going to have I'm predict what people are gonna do based on their ability to do that thing or cognition. Yes. So next one, the MUKO linkable then file format. And ELF, executable dynamic file format. So you're gonna have the MUKO boot sector register two type of file formats: linkable then executable and executable then linkable file format. The goal is to have the system define how the MUKO basically it's a backwards propagation of a system. So you can have a latitudinal and longitudinal wave propagation, latitudinal longitudinal, or basically X wave propagation, or via frequency mode, an FM scale, FM dynamic scale, which means like it's dynamic. Basically, when it's dynamic, you can map it out to other services. Okay, so it can be segmented intervals. So it's basically a dynamic scale that can map into kind of systems of quadratic equations. What that means is that file formats are sparse in MUKO OS. So you're gonna have a file format. You're gonna have a Windows text file. You're gonna have a Linux text file. These are just files. We're gonna have the executable files too. So if you you can run linkable then executable file format and executable then linkable file format based on the polarity. So linkable then file format. Link this to this system. Link again to this this system. But you can get I'm trying to find some kind of codec system finally for the MUKO booking system, and the code will determine how the system defines file formats via how they're registered as FAT the 2 boot sector, FAT16 boot sector, FAT32 boot sector. Which will give 512 bytes of memory, stock of memory. So this is MUKO OS dot bin. The goal is to have kind of a in-memory pagination or cache pagination. Basically defined so you can always find the index your files based on the sparse framework. So linkable then executable means, let me think. Linkable then executable means you can link the file, then execute the file. It's a link first, then the first principle, and first only principle of the codec system. I'm gonna have executable, then linkable, which means you have to execute something to link the file. Executable, linkable file. Now, basically, there are 20 phases to MUKO so far, and the rings are the kernel, to build the kernel, a ring to kernel. You're gonna have 20 smaller rings, in the kind of kernel. For But you're gonna have standard rings. You're gonna have 20 divided by five. 20 divided by five phases or four boot sectors. So you're gonna have anything that is 20 divided by five. So the five rings will be zero ring zero, which is basically the kernel without protection. Ring one, the kernel magic. Let me go. So this you're gonna have a kernel ring model, kernel rings. Protection, yeah, yeah. They are, but you're gonna have them as propagation. So you're gonna be invert, you're gonna be, opposite. So you're gonna have ring 20 map to ring five. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's gonna be five sub layers of ring. So you can have a dynamic ring system. So you can have, so you normally have ring zero, which is kernel mode. Ring zero, ring three, which is the user mode, and but it's gonna be really distros, but the rings are security permissions security, execution systems, so for human resources, but I'm trying to say the rings as as kind of a dense as conscious system. So right now they are have available ring zero and ring three in context. So ring zero is for kernel, ring three is for users, and ring one and two. Basically this is really fast system. So I'm gonna try to read this document out. I'm trying to make basically the my rings are in dimension. So these are basically both phases. So phases, and the rings are so you can have the kernel boot and you can have the schedule up. So you're gonna have credit scheduler. So you're gonna have uh, ring zero is the kernel, ring one is the device drivers, and ring two is the device drivers, and ring three is application. So that's what kernel says. But I want to basically I want it to be dimensionless model to dimensional quantity. But dimensional quantities for the because they're gonna share dimensional quantities. So you cannot so these are phases of MMUKO boot sequence. So phase one to phase 20 share five rings. Five rings. And the five rings are ring zero, ring one to ring one. They have five rings, but they share four sub rings. They are for ensure this thing can grow dynamically. Like some kind of a well, take a ship. There's point of infinity. The dimension point with based on like wave. You can't predict the shell because doing this dynamic. So if you like trying to predict the shell, it's like a surface of sphere, and by pushing down on the surface of the sphere, you have a dimension quantity propagate as upside down cone. And when you push one axis to basically the pole's gonna pop, it's gonna spring back up, it's gonna spring back up, it's gonna like spring another ring actual information on a shell. So you cannot so the other one takes priority basically because it's like an undershape. It's not like a dense system, I'm saying to you. Um what else now? Here. Liquidation of financial assets. Blood, sweat, and tears. So you're gonna have liquidation mechanic of um, a system that can liquidate itself financially, and so you can have a service. So you don't have to pay any real money. You just liquidate the money, liquidate the service with the money. Uh, 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 Sorry, guys, I'm just something here. So I'm gonna play this video now. So I'm speaking of basically, you're gonna have a liquidation of financial assets, basically. So you're gonna have everything that's financial liquidated and it goes into, so you're gonna need to be in debt. Your company's gonna cause you debt, and you're gonna have half, like so if you have the currency of, if your different currency is like a British pound, you're gonna have half of everything will be half maximum. So until you get warnings, everything must be 0.4. Based on equation, you're gonna have so if you have a pound and I want to, and my currency is British pounds, I have half a pound. I have 1 pound to 50 British pence. And that's what I'm saying to you guys. It's basically a system of liquidation that allows via via ways to systematically uh, uh, purify because you don't know how the service works really. You just get a service. You then have to liquid the money to get sure you should know financial explorer. So you already have some backing. You can also use to sue someone. Thank you for watching this video, guys. Mm, so yes.